I woke up this morning to frantic pounding on my front door, the kind that makes your whole body jolt awake before your mind catches up. It sounded less like knocking and more like someone trying to break their way into my life by force. My phone was vibrating so hard across the nightstand it nearly rattled onto the floor. Missed calls, voicemails, text after text after text, all from my parents and my younger sister, all desperate, all saying the same thing in different words. Call us back now. Please stop whatever you started. We can fix this. Just talk to us. If you'd seen them standing outside my apartment at dawn, pale and frantic and looking like they hadn't slept, you probably would have assumed I was the one who had done something unforgivable. But to understand why they were there, you have to go back. Because this didn't begin with the pounding on my door. It began long before that, in the quiet spaces where betrayal starts small enough to be mistaken for coincidence. My name is Elena Carter. I'm 31 years old. Until about a month ago, I thought I understood exactly how dysfunctional a family could get without actually breaking beyond repair. I knew my parents favored my younger sister. I knew I had spent most of my life being treated like the dependable backup while she got to be the headline. I knew there were things they would excuse for her that they would never excuse for me. What I didn't know was how far they were willing to go once their favorite child wanted something that belonged to me. It started about a year and a half ago. At that point, I was engaged to a man named Adrian Cole. We had been together for 3 years, and for most of that time, I genuinely believed I had found the person I was going to build the rest of my life with. Adrian had that kind of presence people notice immediately. He was sharp, charming, easy in conversation. He could walk into a room and make everyone feel like they mattered, which is a very dangerous trait in the wrong person and a very comforting one in the right one. Back then, I thought he was the right one. We picked out the ring together. We planned a small early fall wedding at a cozy winery just outside town. It wasn't flashy, and that was exactly why I loved it. I didn't want a giant production. I wanted something warm, intimate, and real. Just our closest family and friends. White flowers, string lights over the reception patio, soft music, good wine, the kind of day that felt like a promise instead of a performance. I was happy in a quiet, practical way. I had a steady coding job, a decent apartment, and the kind of life that didn't look dramatic from the outside but felt earned to me. I liked things that were stable. I liked plans. I liked the comfort of knowing what came next. Adrian used to tease me about that. He'd smile and say, "You plan your future like you're debugging a program." Maybe I did. Maybe that's why I missed the early warning signs. I kept assuming if something was wrong, I would eventually be able to logic my way through it. Then my younger sister came back into town. Her name is Savannah Carter. She's 2 years younger than me, and if I'm the one people describe as reliable, Savannah is the one they describe as unforgettable. She had just finished her master's degree in finance and returned home carrying herself the way she always had, like life was a room she already knew how to win over. Savannah has always been my parents' golden child. Better grades, bigger ambitions, more sparkle. The one they talked about with pride so visible it practically lit the room. My mother had a habit when we were younger. She'd introduce me with a polite smile and then, before the conversation could settle, launch into whatever new accomplishment Savannah had collected that week. It became so normal that by the time I reached adulthood, I had stopped expecting anything different. My father was less obvious, but in some ways worse. My mother performed favoritism like a show. My father made it feel like an objective fact. Savannah was potential. I was acceptable. Still, when she came back, I tried to be mature about it. I was engaged. I was starting my own life. I told myself I was past the point of caring how the old family dynamics made me feel. And at first, I even thought it was a good thing when Adrian and Savannah hit it off. I wanted my fiancé to get along with my family. I really did. The first dinner after she came back was at my parents' house. I remember it so clearly now, which is probably my brain's way of punishing me. Savannah sat across from Adrian, asking him questions about markets, startup culture, investment strategy, all the things that bored me after about 30 seconds. Adrian lit up talking to her in a way I noticed, but didn't yet fear. He laughed more than usual. She kept leaning in. My mother looked delighted. My father, who could go through an entire meal speaking only when necessary, actually joined the conversation. And there I was at the same table, smiling and telling myself how nice it was that everyone seemed comfortable. Looking back, that was the first mistake. Not trusting them, not trusting him, trusting my own need for everything to be fine. After that night, Savannah's name started showing up everywhere. At first, it was harmless. Savannah thinks we should diversify our savings. Savannah says the market's going to shift hard by next year. Savannah had a really interesting take on long-term equity. I remember half laughing one evening while I was answering work emails on the couch. You know you're marrying me, not Savannah, right? He smiled without looking up from his phone. I know, she just has a good head for this stuff. It should have been nothing, a throwaway line. Ordinary. But for some reason, it stayed with me. Maybe because he said it too easily. Maybe because I had already started to notice how often the two of them ended up in side conversations I wasn't part of. Maybe because there was something in the way Savannah watched him when she thought nobody was paying attention, like she was measuring what kind of future he represented. The wedding planning got more intense as the date got closer. Deposits were paid. Seating charts were being revised. The florist needed final counts. I was juggling code deadlines during the day and wedding logistics at night, living on caffeine and lists, and the illusion that if I kept moving, everything would hold together. Adrian still knew exactly how to calm me down. He'd bring me coffee without asking, rub the tension from my shoulders, kiss my temple and tell me, "It's going to be beautiful, Elena. Stop carrying all of it by yourself." That's the kind of thing that makes betrayal harder to explain to people later. They always imagine some obvious villain, some cold, cruel person twirling a metaphorical mustache in the corner. But often the person who ruins you is still kind in small ways while they're doing it, still familiar, still gentle, still capable of making you question your own instincts. There were moments, though, moments that pressed at me in a way I couldn't quite shake. Once, I came into my parents' kitchen and found Adrian and Savannah talking in low voices near the counter, not doing anything inappropriate, just standing a little too close. Both of them shifted when they saw me. Adrian smiled immediately and asked whether I wanted takeout later. Savannah reached for a glass of water like that had been the whole reason she was there. Another time, during dinner, my mother made a joking comment. Honestly, she said, dabbing at the corner of her mouth with a napkin, if Adrian had met Savannah first, who knows? She laughed afterward. So did Savannah. My father smirked into his wine glass. Adrian gave one of those awkward little chuckles people use when they don't want to commit to a response. And me? I smiled. Because that's what you do when you've spent your whole life being told you're too sensitive whenever you react to something cruel disguised as humor. Later in the car, I brought it up. That was a weird thing for Mom to say. Adrian shrugged, eyes on the road. You know how she is. Yes, I said. That's exactly why it bothered me. He exhaled like I was making his evening more difficult than it needed to be. Elena, not everything is a problem. I turned to stare out the passenger window after that. Not because I agreed, because I recognized the shift. The tiny one. The one where somehow I was no longer the person reacting to an uncomfortable moment. I was the person creating tension by mentioning it. That feeling only got worse. Savannah started getting involved in wedding details nobody had asked her to handle. She had opinions on the wine, opinions on the venue layout, opinions on the guest experience. My mother encouraged it, of course. Said Savannah, just had a stronger eye for presentation. Adrian didn't object. In fact, there were moments when it felt like he appreciated her input more than mine. Probably because hers came without stress, and mine came attached to invoices and deadlines and the reality of being the one actually organizing everything. One night, I glanced at Adrian's phone when it lit up on the coffee table. I wasn't snooping, it was reflex. A name catches your eye when it flashes in the dark. Savannah. I don't even remember the full message, just enough to know they were discussing wine selections for our wedding without me. Why is she texting you about this? I asked. He barely looked up. Because she knows wine better than we do. It's still our wedding. And she's helping, he said, finally meeting my eyes. You're overloaded. Why are you turning this into an issue? There it was again. That subtle reversal. The discomfort I felt became the real problem, not the thing that caused it. That night, after he fell asleep, I stood in the bathroom staring at my reflection under the harsh overhead light and tried to reason with myself. You're tired, you're stressed, you're projecting old family stuff onto new situations. You're imagining patterns because you've spent too long being overlooked. It would have been easier if I had been wrong. That's the cruelest part of hindsight. It doesn't just show you what happened. It shows you all the moments when your instincts tried to warn you and you chose peace over truth because peace felt easier to survive. About 2 weeks before the wedding, Adrian called me while I was at work. I was in the middle of reviewing a stubborn piece of code when his name flashed across my screen. I answered with a smile already in my voice, expecting something normal. Maybe a vendor issue, maybe a question about the final guest count. But the second I heard him speak, something inside me tightened. "Elena," he said, and his tone was too careful, too controlled. "Can you meet me? We need to talk." My fingers went cold on the edge of my desk. There are moments in life when the future changes before you fully know why. You feel it first in your body, in the silence between one heartbeat and the next, in the strange sense that something is slipping out from under you and you're about to find out exactly how far the fall goes. I didn't know it yet, but by the end of that conversation, I was going to lose far more than a wedding. The diner Adrian chose was the same one where we'd had our very first date. That detail didn't hit me until I pulled into the parking lot and saw the familiar neon sign flickering against the late afternoon sky. The place hadn't changed at all. Same faded booths, same smell of coffee and frying onions drifting through the door every time someone walked in. For a moment, I sat in my car with the engine running, staring at the entrance. Something in my chest tightened. People say your instincts warn you before disaster. I used to think that was poetic exaggeration. That afternoon proved otherwise. I hadn't even stepped inside yet, but I already felt like I was walking into a room where my life was about to end. Adrian was already there. He was sitting in a booth near the window, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee he clearly hadn't been drinking. When he saw me, he straightened slightly, like someone bracing for impact. That alone was enough to make my stomach drop. Adrian was never nervous. I slid into the seat across from him. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The waitress came by and asked if I wanted anything. I shook my head without taking my eyes off him. "What's going on?" I asked finally. He didn't answer right away. He rubbed the back of his neck, a gesture I had seen 100 times before when he was trying to find the right words. "Elena," he started. The way he said my name made everything inside me go still. "We need to talk about the wedding." I forced out a small laugh. "If this is about the seating chart again, I swear I'm going to. I can't marry you." The sentence landed so abruptly that for a moment my brain refused to process it. I stared at him. "What?" His eyes flickered away from mine. "I can't go through with the wedding." I laughed again, but this time the sound felt strange in my throat. "Adrian, if this is about stress or nerves, that's normal. Everyone freaks out a little before—" "It's not that." He cut me off gently, but firmly. "I'm in love with someone else." The entire diner seemed to fall silent around us. It's funny how your brain works in moments like that. You don't explode, you don't cry. Instead, everything slows down, like you're watching your own life through thick glass. "With who?" I asked. My voice sounded calm, too calm. Adrian hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. But I still needed to hear it. "With Savannah." For a moment, the words didn't mean anything. Savannah. My brain repeated the name once, twice, 3 times before the meaning slammed into me like a physical blow. "My sister?" I said. He nodded slowly. "We didn't mean for this to happen." I stared at him across the table. The man I had planned to marry. The man I had trusted with every quiet part of my life. "How long?" I asked. He swallowed. "A few months." A few months, while I had been planning our wedding. While I had been choosing flowers, and writing vows, and calculating catering costs, and asking Savannah's opinion about wine. My fingers curled slowly around the edge of the table. "You've been sleeping with my sister," I said, "for months." "It's not like that," Adrian said quickly. "Oh?" I asked quietly. "What's it like then?" He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice. "We tried to fight it." That sentence almost made me laugh again. "You tried to fight it," I repeated. "Yes. For 3 months." "Yes." I nodded slowly. "Sounds exhausting." Adrian flinched. "I didn't want to hurt you." That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, just cleanly. I reached into my purse, pulled out a $10 bill, and placed it on the table. Adrian looked confused. "What are you doing?" "Paying for my coffee," I said calmly. "You didn't even order anything?" "I'm covering the emotional damage." For the first time since I sat down, I stood up. Adrian grabbed my wrist. "Elena, wait." I pulled my hand away. "Don't," I said quietly. His face twisted with guilt. "I'm sorry." I studied him for a long moment. Then I said the only honest thing left. "You should be." And I walked out. The drive to my parents' house felt surreal. The whole time I kept expecting to wake up from some bizarre nightmare. Adrian and Savannah didn't even make sense as a sentence in my head. My fiancé and my sister. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the numbness had hardened into something colder. My parents were sitting at the dining table when I walked in. They looked up. "Hi, honey," my mom said. "We weren't expecting you." Savannah wasn't there. That detail felt important somehow. "I just spoke to Adrian," I said. My father set his newspaper down slowly. "And?" he asked. "And he's in love with Savannah." Silence filled the room. My mom sighed. Not gasped, not looked shocked. Sighed. "Well," she said, reaching for her teacup, "maybe this is for the best." I blinked. "What?" "You and Adrian never seemed like a perfect match," she continued calmly. My father nodded thoughtfully. "Savannah's more his type." I stared at them. "My fiancé has been sleeping with my sister behind my back for months," I said slowly. "And your response is that she's more his type?" My mother set her cup down. "People fall in love, Elena. They were together for 3 months. Well," my father said, "better now than after the wedding." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Before I could respond, the front door opened. Savannah walked in. She froze when she saw me. "Elena." Adrian stepped in behind her. The room suddenly felt too small. Savannah approached slowly. "I was going to tell you." "When?" I asked. She hesitated. "Soon." "Before or after the honeymoon?" Her face flushed. "We didn't plan this." That sentence again. Nobody ever plans betrayal. It just apparently happens repeatedly for 3 months. Adrian cleared his throat. "There's something else." I crossed my arms. "What now?" He glanced at Savannah, then at my parents. "Since the venue is already booked, we were thinking maybe we could use it." For a second, I didn't understand what he meant. Then it hit me. "You want my wedding?" Savannah winced. "Claire!" "My name is Elena." "Right," she said quickly. "Elena, listen." My mother leaned forward. "The deposits are non-refundable." $15,000, my father added. I stared at all of them. "You're serious?" "It's just practical," my mom said. "Your wedding is in 2 weeks," I said slowly, "and you want to replace the bride." Savannah looked uncomfortable. "Technically, the venue is already perfect." I stood there for a moment, looking at my family, looking at the man I loved, looking at the sister who had taken him. And suddenly everything made sense. Not the betrayal, but the pattern. I had never been the priority. Not once. Without another word, I turned and walked out of the house. This time I didn't even bother closing the door behind me. 2 weeks later, my sister married my ex-fiancé at my wedding venue, with my flowers, my guest list, my entire life repackaged into their perfect love story. And that was only the beginning. 2 weeks later, my sister married the man who had been my fiancé, at the same winery, with the same florist, the same guest list, the same band, everything. The only thing that changed was the bride. I didn't go, of course. I spent that day sitting alone in my apartment with a bottle of cheap whiskey and my phone face down on the table. But even if I had thrown the phone out the window, I still would have known exactly what was happening. Because my parents made sure the whole world knew. My mother posted photos all afternoon. Savannah walking through the vineyard in a white dress that should have been mine. Adrian standing under the arch where we were supposed to say our vows. My father smiling proudly beside them like this had always been the plan. The captions were worse. A perfect day celebrating true love. So proud of these two. Family is everything. Family. I remember staring at that word for a long time. It's funny how a single word can suddenly feel like a foreign language. Friends texted me awkward messages that day. "Are you okay? Do you want to talk? I'm so sorry." Most of them didn't even know what to say because situations like that don't fit into normal human experience. There isn't a standard script for, my sister married my fiancé and my parents threw them a wedding. So I did what most people do when reality becomes too absurd to confront directly. I worked. I buried myself in coding projects, took on extra contracts, stayed up late, debugging systems that didn't matter just to keep my brain occupied. Logic was safe. Code made sense. Problems had solutions. People didn't. Adrian called a few times during those months. I never answered. He left voicemails that all sounded the same. "Elena, I know you're angry. I understand if you hate me, but I never wanted things to happen this way." Delete. Savannah tried too. Her messages were softer. "I miss you. You're still my sister. We can fix this if you'll just talk to me." Delete. My parents, though, acted like nothing catastrophic had happened. That was the strangest part. About a week after the wedding, my mother called me as if she were discussing the weather. "Savannah and Adrian are settling into their new place," she said cheerfully. "That's nice," I replied flatly. "You should come for dinner sometime. Adrian feels terrible about everything." "Does he?" "Yes, but what's done is done, Elena. You can't hold on to anger forever." I remember gripping my phone so hard my fingers hurt. "You're right," I said quietly. There was a hopeful pause on the other end of the line. "Really?" my mother asked. "Yes," I said. I can also stop answering your calls. Then I hung up. You'd think that would have been enough of a boundary. It wasn't. 3 months later, an envelope arrived in my mailbox. Heavy cardstock, gold trim, fancy enough to look like it belonged in a jewelry box instead of a mailbox slot. I opened it standing right there in the hallway outside my apartment. Inside was an invitation. Celebration of Love, hosted by Robert and Margaret Carter, in honor of Savannah and Adrian. Apparently, their winery wedding hadn't been elaborate enough, so my parents were throwing them a second celebration. A bigger one, a flashier one, something worthy of Savannah's future. I left the invitation sitting on my kitchen counter for 3 days, just staring at it. My mother called on the 4th. Elena, you got the invitation, right? I did. It would mean so much if you came. Would it mean something to them, I asked, or something to you? She sighed. He's still your family. He stole my fiancé. That's not how Savannah sees it. I'm sure it isn't. My father got on the phone next. His voice had that tone he used whenever he believed he was delivering wisdom. Elena, you need to grow up. I actually laughed. Grow up? Yes, Ryan made a mistake. My fiancé and my sister had an affair for 3 months. They're married now. And that fixes it? Be a woman and move on. I repeated the words slowly. Be a woman. You're embarrassing the family with this grudge, he said. That was the moment something shifted inside me. Not anger. Clarity. I almost declined the invitation. I even drafted the message. But curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to see how far they would go. The celebration was held at a massive estate outside the city. Manicured lawns, white tents, string quartets playing near the fountain. The kind of place people rent when they want the entire world to know they're wealthy. Savannah looked like she had stepped out of a magazine. Her dress glittered under the lights. Adrian stood beside her, smiling that same effortless smile that used to make strangers like him instantly. My parents sat in the front row like proud royalty. And me? I was a ghost. People whispered when they saw me. Some avoided eye contact. Others offered sympathetic smiles like I was attending a funeral instead of a party. In a way, I guess I was. The ceremony was flawless. Savannah teared up while reading her vows. Adrian's voice broke as he promised to love her forever. My father gave a speech afterward about destiny, about how true love always finds a way. Not once did he mention that the story had started with my life falling apart. Not once. The applause was thunderous. Champagne flowed. Music started. Everyone gathered around the dance floor. Savannah and Adrian began their first dance under a canopy of golden lights. I watched for exactly 30 seconds. Then I left. No goodbye. No confrontation. Just silence. Because sometimes silence is the only dignity left. I drove home alone that night, wondering why I had bothered showing up at all. If the story had ended there, maybe things would have been easier. Maybe I could have built a new life and forgotten them completely. But my family had never been good at letting things go. The calls started again around the holidays, and eventually they decided to confront me in person. They used the spare key I had once trusted them with. And that's when things really exploded. The holidays were the worst part, not because I missed my family, because they refused to let me disappear quietly. Thanksgiving came first. My mother left 3 voicemails that morning. Elena, it's strange without you here. Your father made too much food. Savannah asked if you might still come. I didn't respond. Christmas was worse. By then, Savannah had started calling too. Her messages were long, emotional, carefully worded. I know I hurt you, one voicemail said, but I'm still your sister. I miss you. Adrian misses you too. We just want our family back. Our family. That phrase made my stomach twist every time I heard it. My parents kept repeating the same argument. You're tearing this family apart by holding on to resentment. Like the affair hadn't done that already. Like the wedding hadn't done that already. Like I was the one responsible for the wreckage. For months, I ignored them. Until one evening, when I came home from work and found the lights on in my living room. For a second, I thought I'd been robbed. Then I stepped inside and saw them. My parents were sitting on my couch. Savannah was standing near the kitchen counter. They looked up at the same time. My father spoke first. We need to talk. My first instinct was disbelief, then anger. How did you get in here? My mother answered calmly. You gave us a spare key for emergencies. Yes, I said slowly, for emergencies. Savannah stepped forward. Elena, please just listen. I set my bag down and pointed toward the door. Get out. My father frowned, like I had just been rude at a dinner party. Stop being dramatic. Out, I repeated. My mother crossed her arms. This has gone on long enough. What has? This sulking. I stared at her. You call this sulking? You're acting like a child, she said flatly. People fall in love. It happens. Savannah tried to soften the moment. Elena, we just want to fix things. You married my fiancé. Her face tightened. Adrian and I didn't plan for it to happen. That's funny, I said, because you managed to plan an entire wedding in 2 weeks. Silence fell across the room. Savannah looked down. Adrian wasn't there, I noticed. Of course he wasn't. My father leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Elena, you're 31 years old, and it's time to grow up. I almost laughed. My fiancé slept with my sister for 3 months. They're married now, he said calmly. That's supposed to fix it? It means the situation is permanent. Savannah stepped in again. Elena, I know this is painful, but... Painful? I interrupted. You stole my life. Her eyes flashed. That's not fair, isn't it? Savannah took a deep breath. Adrian and I love each other. And you couldn't find literally any other man on the planet? That's not the point. My father stood up. This conversation is going nowhere. No, I said quietly. It's going exactly where it should. Savannah's expression hardened slightly. Elena, you were never really right for Adrian. The words landed like a slap. What? She hesitated, but only for a second. You like stability, routine, quiet. Yes. Adrian wants more than that. I stared at her. So you decided to help him find it? He needs someone who can keep up with him. For the first time that night, anger surged through me so fast it made my hands shake. You mean someone like you? Savannah didn't deny it. I'm just being honest. My father stepped between us before the moment could escalate further. That's enough. He turned to me with the same expression he used when I was a teenager getting lectured for missing curfew. Elena, this anger is toxic. Toxic? Yes. Your sister is happy, Adrian is happy, your mother and I are happy. I looked at all three of them. The only person miserable here, my father continued, is you. That was the moment something inside me finally snapped. Not loudly. Just completely. You're right, I said. They all looked surprised. I am miserable. Savannah blinked. But that changes tonight. My mother frowned. What do you mean? I looked each of them in the eye. I'm done. My father scoffed. Done with what? With pretending this family ever cared about me. My mother opened her mouth to argue. I raised my hand. No, you've made it clear where I stand. Savannah looked uncomfortable. Elena. Second best, I continued. The words tasted bitter, but freeing at the same time. Always have been. My father shook his head. You're being ridiculous. Am I? Yes. I nodded slowly. Then make it official. The room went silent. My father studied me carefully. You're serious? Yes. He turned to my mother. She gave a small shrug. Savannah looked suddenly uncertain. You don't mean that, she said quietly. Oh, I do. I pointed toward the door again. Now get out of my apartment. For the first time that night, they actually left. None of us knew that conversation would lead somewhere much darker. A month later, my doorbell rang while I was eating lunch. When I opened the door, my father was standing there holding a large envelope. He looked strangely formal. Hello, Elena? What is it? He handed me the envelope. You asked for this. I opened it slowly. Inside was a typed legal document, a formal declaration stating that Elena Carter was no longer recognized as a member of the Carter family. All financial support revoked, inheritance rights terminated, all familial ties severed. Both of my parents' signatures were at the bottom. I read it twice, then looked up at him. You actually did it. He nodded. You left us no choice. No choice? I repeated. Yes, because I was hurt that my sister stole my fiancé. You refused to move on. My mother was sitting in the car behind him. She wouldn't look at me. Ryan didn't even come? I asked. Savannah is busy. Of course she was. I handed the letter back. This is what you wanted? My father's expression didn't change. This is what you chose. I gave a quiet laugh. No, Dad. This is what you chose. He turned to leave, but paused halfway down the steps. Then he said something I'll never forget. Savannah has always been the better child. He got in the car. They drove away. That was a month ago, and I thought that was the end of it. Then this morning happened. The pounding on my door, the desperate phone calls, and the sudden realization that something had gone horribly wrong. That was a month ago. A full month of silence after the letter. No calls, no messages, no guilt trips, no family drama. Just quiet. For the first time in years, my life felt clean. Not happy exactly. The damage they had done didn't disappear overnight, but the noise was gone. The constant pressure to be the reasonable one, the forgiving one, the invisible one, all of it had finally stopped. I went to work, I came home, I slept. Somewhere in the background of my mind, a small voice kept asking the same question. Why now? Why would my parents go so far as to formally cut me out of the family after all these years of tolerating my existence as the backup child? I didn't have the answer. Until this morning. The pounding on my door started at 5:30 a.m. Not knocking, pounding. The kind that makes the walls vibrate. At first, I thought something terrible had happened, an accident, a fire, something that justified that level of urgency. Then I checked my phone. 87 missed calls, more than 100 texts, dozens of voicemails, all from the same three people. Mom, Dad, Savannah. The messages didn't make sense. Elena, please call us. We need to talk now. This is serious. Stop whatever you're doing. We can fix this. Fix what? I made coffee before opening the door, partly because I was still half asleep, mostly because I wanted them to wait. When I finally unlocked the door, they nearly fell inside. My mother looked like she had been crying for hours. Her mascara had smeared under her eyes. My father's hair was disheveled, his tie crooked. Savannah looked pale, pacing the hallway like a trapped animal. They all started talking at once. Thank God you're here. We've been calling you all morning. Elena, we need to talk right now. I leaned against the kitchen counter and took a sip of coffee. Do we? My father ran a hand through his hair. Yes. Last time we spoke, I said calmly, you legally disowned me. My mother grabbed my arm. Elena, please. Her voice cracked. What did you tell them? I blinked. Tell who? Savannah snapped. Don't play games. I'm not playing anything. My father stepped forward. The newspapers. What newspapers? The Tribune, Savannah said, and two others. I frowned. Okay? My father's voice rose. The story. What story? Savannah looked like she might explode. The exposé about Dad's firm. The words landed strangely. I set my coffee down. What are you talking about? My father collapsed onto the couch like someone had removed the bones from his body. They know everything. Everything about what? He looked up at me slowly. The Mitchell case. My stomach tightened. I knew that name. I hadn't thought about it in years. What about it? I asked. My father rubbed his face. They have documents. Documents? Evidence. Savannah started pacing again. Audio recordings, emails, statements from witnesses. My brain was struggling to keep up. What does this have to do with me? All three of them stared at me. At the same time. You're the only one who knew, my father said quietly. I stared back. You think I leaked it? Savannah crossed her arms. You had access. I also had a job, a life, and absolutely no interest in spending my free time destroying a law firm. You had motive, my father added. I almost laughed. You disowned me a month ago. Exactly. So you think I decided to get revenge by exposing a 20-year-old case to the press? My father didn't answer. Which was answer enough. For context, the Mitchell case was something I had learned about years ago. 20 years earlier, a powerful CEO named Thomas Mitchell had killed a pedestrian while driving drunk. 3 times the legal limit. Ran a stop sign. Plowed into a man crossing the street. Open and shut case. Except my father's law firm had represented him. And somehow, miraculously, Thomas Mitchell walked free. When I was younger, I didn't understand how. When I got older, I looked into it. That's when I found the pieces. Witnesses who changed their testimony. Toxicology reports that disappeared. A smear campaign that painted the victim as reckless and irresponsible. Mitchell kept his career. The victim's family got nothing. I had confronted my father about it once years ago. He shut the conversation down immediately. Law is complicated, he told me. That was the end of it. Until now. Savannah stopped pacing. You're seriously saying you didn't leak it? Yes. My father leaned forward. The reporters have access to internal files. So? So someone gave them access. And that someone is me? You're the only outsider who knew about the case. I shook my head slowly. You're insane. Savannah suddenly froze. Her eyes widened. Oh my God. My father looked up. What? Savannah's face drained of color. No. What is it? My mother asked. Savannah whispered one word. Adrian. The room went silent. My father frowned. What about him? Savannah looked like she might faint. I told him. Told him what? My father asked. About the Mitchell case. My father's voice dropped. You what? Savannah swallowed. He asked how you built the firm, about your biggest wins. I thought he'd be impressed. You told him confidential legal information? My father said. I didn't think... No, I said quietly. Savannah turned toward me. You don't think he... When did this story hit the papers? I asked. My father answered. 2 months ago. Savannah stared at him. Her lips trembled. That's when Adrian started traveling for work. I felt a chill crawl down my spine. Where is Adrian right now? I asked. Savannah whispered the answer. Boston. And suddenly the entire situation shifted. Savannah was still standing in the middle of my living room when the realization hit her. Her hands were shaking. No, she said quietly. That's not possible. My father leaned forward. What are you talking about? Savannah grabbed her phone and stared at the screen like it might bite her. He wouldn't... My mother's voice trembled. Savannah, what's going on? Savannah looked up at us, her face pale. Adrian knows about the Mitchell case. My father's expression turned to stone. You told him? Savannah swallowed. After we got married, he started asking questions. About Dad's career, about how the firm became so successful.
And you told him? My father repeated slowly.
I didn't think it mattered, she whispered.
You told him confidential information from a sealed case? I thought he was just curious.
I leaned against the kitchen counter, watching the scene unfold with a strange sense of distance.
So Adrian knew the story, I said quietly.
Savannah nodded weakly. But he didn't know the files existed.
My father rubbed his temples. The reporters have internal documents. Emails too, Savannah added. And recordings, my father said. That meant only one thing. Someone had gone digging. Someone with time. Someone with motivation.
Savannah stared at her phone.
I'm calling him. Her voice cracked slightly as she pressed the screen and put the call on speaker. The line rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then Adrian answered.
Savannah, I'm in the middle of meetings. Can this wait? His voice sounded calm, professional. Exactly the same voice that used to tell me everything was going to be fine.
Savannah's voice trembled. The newspapers.
What about them?
They're publishing a story about my father's firm. Silence.
Then Adrian spoke carefully. That sounds serious.
They have documents, Savannah said. Documents? Yes. Evidence about the Mitchell case. Another pause.
Then Adrian said quietly,
That's unfortunate. My father stepped forward. Adrian, he said sharply, someone leaked confidential material to the press. I see. And you're the only outsider who knew about the case.
There was a long silence on the line. Then Adrian said something unexpected. That's a very serious accusation.
Savannah's voice shook. Did you tell anyone? Of course not. Then how do they have the files?
I have no idea. His tone was smooth, controlled, almost rehearsed.
My father opened his mouth to continue the interrogation, but I stepped forward first. Hi, Adrian. Another pause. Elena, he said. His voice changed slightly. Not shocked. Just interested. Let's skip the performance, I said calmly. You did this. Savannah turned toward me. Elena, Adrian chuckled softly. That's quite an accusation. Is it? Yes. You spent 3 years with me, learning everything about my family. That's called a relationship. You started asking about my father's work. Curiosity. You suddenly fell in love with my sister. Savannah flinched. And now, I finished quietly, 2 months after gaining access to her and our family, the biggest scandal in my father's firm's history explodes in the press. The silence on the phone stretched longer this time. Then Adrian laughed. Not nervously. Not defensively. Just cold. Well, he said, I suppose it was only a matter of time before someone connected the dots. Savannah's face went white. Adrian? You really didn't think that was coincidence, did you? My father's voice rose. What are you talking about? Adrian ignored him. Instead, he spoke directly to me. You were the first door. Savannah stared at the phone. What does that mean? Adrian exhaled slowly. Elena was the easiest entry point. The room froze. What? Savannah whispered. You research people long enough, Adrian continued calmly. You start to see patterns, habits, weaknesses. My father gripped the back of a chair. You planned this. Of course. Savannah's voice broke. Our marriage was convenient. You said you loved me. I said a lot of things. My mother covered her mouth. Savannah's hands began shaking violently. Why? For the first time, Adrian's tone changed. It became colder, sharper.
Do you remember the victim in the Mitchell case?
My father stiffened. Adrian continued. Daniel Mitchell. My father whispered. Yes, that was my uncle. The room went silent. Savannah's breath caught.
My cousin grew up without a father, Adrian said, because your firm buried evidence and protected a drunk driver.
My father shook his head. You don't understand how legal defense works.
Oh, I understand perfectly.
Savannah collapsed onto the couch. You used us.
Yes.
You used me. You gave me access. My father's voice trembled with rage. What do you want?
Adrian laughed again.
I already got it. Money?
No.
Then what? I want the truth public.
Savannah whispered.
You destroyed our lives.
Adrian's voice remained calm. Your family destroyed mine 20 years ago.
Then the line went dead.
The room fell into stunned silence.
Savannah was crying. My mother stared at the floor. My father looked like he had aged 10 years in 5 minutes. She played us, my mother whispered. No, I said quietly. He did. My father sank into the couch. Everything. Yes, I said. From the beginning. 4 years of planning. 3 years with me. Then Savannah. All of it just to reach the files.
The story hit the newspapers the next morning.
Front page. Legal empire built on buried Dewey death. The articles had everything. Emails. Witness statements. Audio recordings of my father coaching testimony.
Within hours, 2 major clients dropped his firm. By evening, the state bar announced a formal ethics investigation.
Savannah called me once more that night. Her voice was hollow. He took everything. I looked out my apartment window at the quiet city lights. No, I said. He exposed everything.
There's a difference. For the first time in years, I felt something unexpected.
Freedom.
My family had never really seen me. My father built his career on lies. My mother defended it. Savannah chased whatever benefited her most.
And Adrian?
Adrian had simply torn the mask off all of them.
Standing in the wreckage of it all, I realized something strange.
I wasn't the one who lost everything.
I was the only one who walked away clean.